Well, good evening and welcome to the fifth of you that are here for the first time. We've been here most of the afternoon for our regular and only meeting for the month of July. We'd like to begin each meeting with a moment of silence and invite you to join us if you care to. Thank you. And if you would stand, lead us in the pledge. Attention, salute, pledge, I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, approval of agenda for the July 15th regular board meeting. Without objection, I'll approve the agenda for this evening. The agenda is approved. Public comment, Ms. Gibson, do we have anyone sign up? No one? Approval of minutes for our June 17th work session and regular board meeting. Do anyone notice any corrections that need to be made on those minutes? And without objection, we will approve those also. The June 17th meeting minutes are approved. Okay, June financial report. Ms. Moore.
Okay, so do have a report for June. This is as of June 30th. And it is revenue and expenditures that we have received up to that time, but we are continuing to pay bills that we haven't yet didn't have at the end of June. So this actual total report will change over the next 6 weeks or so. But I'd be happy to answer any questions that any of you have. None?
Don't look at me.
Everybody's looking at Jeff to see if there's a question.
Okay.
I got my foot on here over here.
You can scroll down to that $934,000 if you want to.
Well, that was for our new computers for all the employees in the district. That's what that is.
That is all HPs.
Technology.
$963,000.
Okay, and that's a lease, right?
It is not, it is a purchase.
Purchase.
It is a purchase.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
I had to look twice to see what little Johnny was that we spent.
We had a discussion in leadership team this morning, like, who's she talking about?
His name is something other.
That's exactly what we said this morning. I could have found a better company name than Little Johnny, but.
You might want to clarify for the audience.
So Little Johnny, that expenditure is actually a company that provides school psychologist services. So we don't have, last year, we did not have enough school psychs employed in our district, so we had to contract with a company. And they're actually a great company, provide a great service. They just probably needed a little help with their name, but otherwise, you know.
Everybody talks about Little Johnny, so.
It gets your attention though.
That's
right,
You're
it
not
does.
gonna forget the
That's
company.
it.
Okay, so the next exhibit is also mine.
Yes, ma'am.
The sole source and emergency contracts for FY19. That is exhibit 3. Normally Mr. Orr would give this report, but he's on vacation, so I'm going to pinch hit for him. These are contracts or purchases that were made outside of the normal procurement code. And so the first only one sole source purchase was made during FY19. That was from Daktronics, and it was for scoreboard parts at Walhalla High School.
Yeah. The only ones that can fix the scoreboard on the baseball field.
Right. And then we have 2 emergency procurements. One from Serve Pro of Anderson for emergency fire cleanup at Walhalla High School. They had a small little accident. And although the purchase order was for $3,180, that was not the cost of the cleanup, it was less than $600. And American Pest Control, we had a issue with some pests in a school, and we had to get rid of that in a quick manner, and so that purchase was not $3,000 either, it was about $1,500. That was our only two emergency contracts and the one sole source.
Yeah, and
I should be taking those, because every one of them, Richard was involved in.
Yeah.
So we took care of those.
but I just I just think that's remarkable. In $100 million budget, we spent, what, $7,000 on emergency and sole source. So that just, I think, should make the public feel good that we're going through our procurement procedures and we're making sure that local businesses and everybody has a fair shake at the business of the school district. And the three occurrences where we had to use those exceptions are very understandable. Daktronics is a proprietary scoreboard company, so another company doesn't sell parts to fix a Daktronics scoreboard. And those other two are things that, you know, just came up and we needed to address in a very timely
Golf
way.
cart battery issue and with one of them, and then had another issue with the other.
So,
It was good. Scott does an outstanding job making sure we get what we're supposed
That's
to.
great. Very good.
I'm next. You want me to go?
Go right ahead, that's gonna be Sir Goriel.
Sure. All right. We're having to make an adjustment on the board meeting dates that we got you to approve, and I apologize for this. I don't know what happened. We typically do second, third. Somehow we tried to sneak in a first and second, and that just doesn't work for us being consistent with the public and for us with our principals meetings and that. So we want to get that corrected. So the October meetings, instead of the 7th and the 14th, will be the 14th and the 21st. And we want to just make that public record now for everyone so we can have that right. So again, I apologize for that. I should have checked better.
Any questions on that? Board goals, Dr. Thorson.
right, and we didn't get to this in our retreat we just had, but if you'll look at Ms. Gibson has it on the screen, but you've got that sheet, which is the first sheet in your retreat notebook that she prepared for you today. And it's really just kind of a different look. Many of the same things in there. It's really just grouping them a different way. In the past, we've grouped them by kind of instruction and then operations. And this is maybe just a little different way of looking at it. And there are things that cross over. You know, like if you look at the first bullet, hire qualified teachers. Well, that's HR that falls under administration, but hiring qualified teachers is very important to instruction. And then just different goals in different areas. We did pull out student well-being because there's been a lot of talk about that in the last couple of years. Just things we can do to make sure our student, kind of the whole child, needs are being addressed, not just instructional and that kind of thing. So it keeps consistency with the top 10 school district being our goal. You saw in the retreat how we're going to kind of track that and some different things that we're looking at. Mr. Bibb has come up with some new ideas on that. And but again, we want to be a top 10 school district, and these are some things that we feel like we can do to move us in that direction.
I like that format because reading it puts the students, yes, balancing the budget's a priority, but not as important as some of the other things.
Right.
Looks good.
So we would, we hate to, of course I did email this to you last week, but we hate to put it on the agenda to talk about and then get you to vote on, but we do think it would be nice to have these goals in place when teachers come back, so we can go ahead and start publicizing this and kick off the year with these goals. So if you are open to approving this a little bit later in the meeting, we would certainly appreciate it, so we could get this out and get it on the website and go from there.
questions on the board goals? Okay, we will move into the action items. First thing is approval of FY20 board meeting dates revision that Mr. Handy just discussed. So, is there a motion to approve the revision as presented?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the FY20 board meeting date revision.
I'll second that one.
Motion is second to approve the board meeting revision. Any discussion? All in favor? Next is the board goals that we just discussed.
Mr. Chairman, I make a recommendation we approve the FY20 board goals.
I'll second.
Motion is second, discussion. They all in favor of approving the FY20 board goals? Okay, second reading approval on policy ADC tobacco-free school district. Mr. Andy, you wanna?
And if it's okay with you all, I'd really like to try to do the three together, because the only major question that came up, and we did our research, so after Mr. Henry's question, we did our research. First, we went to the statute. It did not have in there about parents and family members and that came out from the folks at DHEC with their wanting everybody to be 100% compliant. So when we questioned, I pulled the email up actually from the School Boards Association. It says this section is not mandated by the statute, but was part of the collaboration with the Department of Health and Environmental Controls many years ago, when precipitated the creation and adoption of such a policy. The clause is not mandated by law, so you're free to leave out any subgroups that you are not comfortable including. So we took that out, and all of those have been adjusted accordingly, and they're all at the very end section right before we list the legal references and the dates of the revisions and things under tobacco industry marketing or sponsorship. And we cleared that up and took out where it talked about if somebody wore something to a football game or after. Now, it still includes students and staff, but the general public is removed from that.
And so just anybody who was not here at the last board meeting, the School Boards Association sent out a draft of this policy that asked us to enforce a prohibition of tobacco advertisements, not only from our students and staff, but even patrons at our football games and things like that. Mr. Herring brought up the question that, do we really want to enforce that for people who buy a ticket to come into our sporting events or come to a pageant or something like that, that aren't students and aren't staff members? That could lead to, some conflict between an administrator and someone who bought a ticket to come into a football game. So after considering that, we decided to pull that out. We're still going to have those expectations for our students and our staff members, but if a patron wants to wear a t-shirt that advertises tobacco, then they bought a ticket, they come in.
We're not gonna kick them out.
We're not going to kick them out and try to police.
That'd be tough to believe.
That'd be hard.
It would be.
It'd be hard to.
And of course, again, as a kind of a recap, the other big change with this was just putting on there the vaping, updating the policy to include the vaping, which has become an issue. I saw in the USA Today where the guy who's the president of the Juul company, he said if he had something he could say to parents, he'd say, "I'm sorry, we didn't mean to target kids under 18 and that for this," but he understands that a lot of them under 18 are doing it. So that was the big thing to put that in there. So all three of those made the same adjustment in that enforcement. So thank you for bringing that up. So,
Since it is the same wording in all three, can I get a motion and we'll do all three of them, the tobacco-free school district, tobacco-free school staff, and tobacco use by students. Get a motion to approve all three.
Mr. Chairman, go ahead.
You go.
Go ahead, I'll second.
I make a motion that we approve on second reading, policy ADC, tobacco-free school district, policy GBED, tobacco-free school staff, and policy JICG, tobacco use by students.
Second.
Motion and a second, discussion. All in favor? Unanimous. And then the
Okay.
last one is staff leave and absences.
Yes, and just as a review, we've had some situations where folks have been kind of disappointed in how their leave could be used, or that they would lose their leave if they, continue to work and they were retiring or leaving the district, and depending upon when you came to work with the district, there was a different standard in place. So we looked around, talked to other districts, and basically what we have come up with is adjusting it so that if you have accumulated leave and you were hired prior to October 1st of 2012 and you haven't had a break, then 45 days, let's say me, if I retired after 29 years, I retired tomorrow, I have 90 days. 45 days would go toward my retirement credit, and then 45 days would be my daily rate. If you were hired after October 1st into that, and you had 90 days, and 45 would go at your retirement, and then you get the substitute pay, which is now $65 a day for the remaining days that you had. So you wouldn't be just losing them all. I remind you, we had a couple of situations where folks just kind of left and didn't put their resignation day till the end of school, and they never came back because they had days to burn. And that kind of puts us in a bad spot with our students and that kind of thing. And so this is kind of we hope, a win-win, where they're being compensated somewhat for what they have, and we hope that will encourage them to stay with us and get a little bit of pay for those days if they decide to separate. Just cleaning up a little wording on the second page in the fifth bullet. We've got the upon retirement, upon retiring, and cleaning up those things. If you look at the second bullet on the second page, also we talked about the Director of Human Resources being the one that will work on those more than 3 consecutive days, making sure that it's a once in a lifetime or a bona fide reason to be out, so we can have some consistency instead of going building to building with that and the building administrator approving those. We will get those approved by, at this point, Mr. Leroy, but whoever the Director of Human Resources is was the other change. That is it as far as the changes in the staff leave and absences policy that we wanted to get you to update.
Any questions, Ms. Quinn? Do I got a motion to approve policy GCC/GDC, staff leave and absences?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve on second reading policy GCC/GDC, staff leave and absences.
Second.
Motion and second, any discussion? All in favor of approval? And that concludes the open session portion of our meeting. Without objection, we will move into executive session for personnel items and employment recommendations and changes. Then we shall return shortly.